Here we see that nostalgia is a drug and people are clearly addicted. Hey everyone, my name is Max Aaron James. This review of the 1932 film Vampyr, Vampire with a Y, no E at the end, directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer. This is probably one of the most confusing films I've ever watched, not in a good way, with a story that it failed to deliver, or at least failed to deliver an interesting story. Even in other recent or modern reviews of this movie, the praise usually goes to the visuals. I think there are a lot of shots here that are worth studying and looking at or stealing for your own work. But that is about as far as it goes with this movie. Carl Theodor Dreyer is more admired or recognized for a lot of his silent films, particularly The Passion of Joan of Arc. This movie, Vampyr, is his first sound film, and he seemed to have difficulty, adapting to that. So he avoided having a lot of dialogue and more so presenting title cards, just like a lot of silent films. And I think that took away a bit of the story as far as expositioning. And it did not do it as well as actual silent films and failed to deliver a good enough story to keep me intrigued throughout, to the point where I was questioning what exactly I was looking at. I think people need to recognize just because it is old does not mean it is good. But we have modern critics such as Jonathan Rosenbaum, who it is an example of romanticizing black and white or the golden age or era of Hollywood. Just because it is of a certain time and it comes from renowned or infamous or famous filmmaker, actor, director, writer, that there is something in there that people were missing at the time that need to be recognized now. This movie, again, has great shots, but it fails to deliver in the story. It is not good. This movie was booed during a lot of the premieres and even started a riot at one point because people were not getting refunds after watching the movie. This movie was originally going to be filmed also in English, but instead it just stuck with two languages, or at least supposedly there was never any record of an English version actually coming out. Instead, English subtitles were put into the film for English viewers. Dreyer even admitted to reading multiple stories from the late 1800s, horror stories about hauntings or monsters, doors opening on their own, weird sounds, and he felt from reading books that he could translate that feeling, that same thing, into a different medium, even after not having done it himself in the past. I think he would have been better off just studying or watching horror films before this movie came out. Then you have the lead, Nicholas de Gunsberg, who offered to provide funding, be a producer in the movie as long as he was able to be given the lead. He went under the name Julian West in fear that his family would find out that he is trying to be an actor because they kind of look down on it. I don't know if they look down on the profession or necessarily him pursuing the career. Either way, he wanted to keep it a secret. But he provided funding, went in as an actor, being an aspiring actor, which I'm all for, but this is clearly an example of what money can do for you, even if you're not very good at it. After this, a lot of the other roles were given to non-actors, random people in shops or cafes, and I guess it kind of shows here with the lack of acting. Honestly, the making of this film and the outcome of the premieres of this movie are much more interesting than the movie itself. And considering Nosferatu, Dracula, Inferno Cauldron were released prior to this movie, and having technical limitations is not a legitimate excuse for how bad this movie was. The score, the music numbers for this movie are fantastic. And again, when it comes to just seeing it as a silent film, I was intrigued during a lot of those moments, and the shots were great. So you have a combination of good cinematography and good music scores, or good scores, and it makes for an intriguing visual. But when it comes to the actual story, I end up falling off, and I would much rather present this movie in bits and pieces for studying so people can understand how well music can bring out emotion, a mix of emotions through the visuals, or much better than the visuals, and how well lighting and cinematography can be done, no matter how limited you are with your technology. Haven't seen any other movies from Dreyer, but I would assume that they're probably better than this. I would say his silent films, I'm going to assume, are pretty good, and hopefully he improved when it came to making sound movies. Anyway, that's it. I know I pretty much kind of broke this movie down, tore it apart. What did you think of the movie? If you got a chance to see it, what did you think of this review? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, y'all take care of each other. Be sure to check up on one another. Make sure you check up on yourself. And remember, potential has no limit.